Okay, so this is January 11th, 2021, and this is part 2 of the Intel for today. I usually post it, a link or the words, but I haven't been able to post on Facebook for weeks, and I share bits and pieces of it as I can. But I'm going to go ahead and read today's Intel. This is part 2. Okay, so the 10 days of darkness has begun. Within hours, the big media companies will be taken down. Executive Order 13959 will go into effect that prohibits investments in Chinese communist military companies. Now remember, that was signed in November. Check that out online. It'd be whitehouse.gov, Executive Order 13959. If you're part of our Gesara Nesara site, then you've already seen clips of this. It's basically kind of a declaration of war against China, more to do with tech war and cyber war, and also if you've been following it, you already know there was a bunch of troops here that was already taken care of last month. We're not going to go there right now. Okay, so Executive Order 13959 will go into effect that prohibits investments in Chinese communist military companies. It was a declaration of war on big tech. On Wikipedia, there is a list of all the big media channels that would be taken down. There was expected to be a collapse in the stock market. Washington, D.C. has been under lockdown since January 6th, and again, today is January 11th, and Trump signed an executive order today with FEMA and Homeland Security to declare a federal emergency in Washington, D.C. from the 11th, which is today, through the 24th of January 2021. There will be 2 phases of arrests from now to January 19th. From January 19th. For 90 days. The arrests were potential cover for the RV, Tier 4B, and shotgun liquidity release as part of the war to bring down the deep state. ATMs, internet, and credit card processing could go down by Monday, January 11th. Be ready to have 5 days of cash, no credit card, and no internet. So, you know, as I've been telling everybody, stock up on food, stock up on water, make sure you have gas in your vehicle. And know that it's not going to be more than 2 weeks and that the good guys are in control. If you're instructed to stay indoors, it's for your own safety. So don't fear that. Do not engage the military. They are part of a global op to take down the deep state cabal and are not threatening to the people. Everyone will be getting emergency alerts on their phones, TVs, radios, or internet. It would override all other broadcasts and could last for hours at a time. And so remember, they were telling us that once they do that, they're going to do it in 8-hour loops. So every 8 hours, they'll broadcast their evidence and show the American people what has been happening really for decades. Okay, and don't be scared of that either. Do not travel to any large cities, especially Philadelphia, for the rest of the month. Military operations will be taking place in many of the major corrupt cities. People, deep state, Antifa, BLM will start rioting once this intel breaks. The propaganda would be that Trump was a military dictator. But you know that he's not a dictator because they shut him down, so you know they're the dictators. And the riots already started. You know, in Portland and all these places, this is Antifa. Keep in mind, last summer, the Democrats, the Democratic Elite, the dark cabal, said that riots are good, protests are good. You can't get coronavirus and we're not going to stop them. They let that thing in Seattle called CHOP. Portland, it went on for months. They let everything burn. They let it happen. But Trump calls for peace and they call that violence. And the reason they had such a fit over that is because that was part of the Insurrection Act, which, as you know, if you followed this stuff, last night, January 10th, it is said in military intelligence that he signed the Insurrection Act. Okay, so Marines and National Guard troops were being moved as needed for the riots that would start after the national release of the intel. The intel would be dropped for everyone to see and hear in loops that would be several hours long. A few days ago, the system was checked by the FCC, alerting all media that they could not block the flow of intel under federal regulations. So, emergency broadcast system, they've shut it down. You know, Apple shut down the phones. Everybody shut down for Trump to communicate with us. But this new system will override all that, and you will get the information. Trump would be moved continuously like a chess piece from now until the 20th in order to avoid any retaliation against him or his family. watch Pompeo's Twitter account. Pompeo is posting every 30 minutes. When he begins to post every 15 minutes, the take back is on. When he posts every 10 minutes, then 5 minutes, look for an emergency broadcast announcement. Currently, there are 30 minutes apart. And he was on a talk show today talking about not really this stuff, but about some of the issues going on, and that's Secretary Pompeo. Okay, so, and on YouTube, look for stuff from there's Daniel, Charlie Ward, and Simon Parks. There's a video Monday, January 11th, that they show a link here too. The Simon Parks information is good, and you know, discern for yourself what feels right to you and what doesn't as we watch this play out. In less than 5 hours, Executive Order 13959 will go into effect, and that already went into effect this morning, January 11th. It will affect investments in Chinese military companies. It was a declaration of war against China. Okay, so on Wikipedia, there are lists of all the media. Okay, it will take down all the Chinese markets. There will be a collapse in the stock market. North Korea was on board with Trump. They will be finishing clearing out the underground tunnels. China still has an underground city where people were being experimented on, and Wuhan laboratory that is producing viruses. Pelosi has decided not to fast-track impeachment proceedings against Trump. She was blocked by the Republicans from impeachment, and she was already stopped in the House by also on the 28th Amendment. No, the 28th Amendment she was blocked by the Republicans, and she was stopped in the House by impeachment proceedings. Okay, so let's see. Lieutenant General Thomas McInerney, McInerney, Special Forces. So saying that Special Forces took Pelosi's laptop, which is why they pushed everything forward, because they knew of what they were planning with China and they needed the nuclear codes from Trump because they had planned, and discern this for yourself, but this is just what I'd heard, that China was going to invade Taiwan and use those nuclear codes and then blame Trump and Trump's administration. And so on Sunday, the United States, Trump made a declaration that basically says we recognize Taiwan as a sovereignty. So I thought, well, how weird is that, just to do that in the middle of all this? But that's why, because they wanted to get the nuclear codes because China was bringing war onto Taiwan. Okay, and then I think you all listened to the Juan O'Savin stuff. For those listening that don't, it's Juan, then it's O, and then it's Savin. Intel Chronicles, there's stuff about that, and then Kat talking about that on Intel Chronicles. If you're familiar with Nesara, you probably heard of this guy a lot, but if not, check that out. Okay, before it's all over and we've got a long I got a long read ahead of me. I'm reading the Intel. Okay. But a long road ahead of us. I don't think you can actually clean up Washington, D.C. I don't think you can fix it. It's already fixed. President Trump's going to have to invite all of his contractor buddies. They're going to have to put up a fence around D.C. 3 layers deep. You know, it's ironic that they're putting a wall around the Capitol. So even though they didn't want a wall, they're putting a wall around that. So, anyway, I'm not going to read that part. It's just, okay. And then, okay, after we flushed it clean... anyway. Okay, so the ATM's internet and credit card processing could go down Monday, January 11th. It's 9 o'clock on the West Coast Monday. It hasn't really happened. But nothing is going to be negative. So whatever does happen, just trust it. We've already had blackouts in the Vatican. The Pope's been arrested, apparently 80 counts of child trafficking. Pakistan, all of the lights went out. That was part of the election fraud, and Pakistan was also part of the General Electric deal that... where China was going to get in control and get the nuclear codes. You guys probably already know this, and if you don't know it, there's too much to it to talk about right now. Okay, so the president of Italy was arrested with Secretary of State Mike Pompeo and Italian police. And if you're listening and you don't know about this, last week there was an affidavit signed proved that Obama was involved with the Italian Prime Minister and this general of the United Nations to steal the American election, and they have proof of how the servers and how all that went to move the votes from Biden to Trump. Okay, so you can check that stuff out. Italy was the final piece needed to counterattack against the NATO war on the United States of America, led by the United Kingdom. Okay, cat note. Juan O'Savin has repeatedly explained that MI5 and MI6 are deep state agencies run by the City of London, the Rothschilds. and that our election fraud was masterminded out of the City of London by MI5 and MI6 in coordination with CIA and other three-letter agencies in the USA, plus U.S. traders working with foreign or on foreign soil against our country. California has begun to restrict people to a 120-mile radius. They're thinking about the rage for being able to get back and forth with gas and not having to buy it. The governors are not under control and not reading from a WrestleMania script. They really thought they could get away with this, the COVID scamdemic, and bankrupting their state. The military was mobilized yesterday. And also with what Trump's doing, if he signed the Insurrection Act, that made all of the National Guard federalized. Okay, we're going to see some arrests. Joe Biden's arrest would come in second phase, ending January 19th. From the 19th, for another 90 days, there's another entire phase of cleanup. President Trump is backed up by the military, by law enforcement, by pastors, by, of course, the Trump movement, 80% of America. And I think this is going to have a happy ending. Well, of course it is. We know that. Be ready to have 5 days of no cash, no credit card, no internet. Okay, Simon Parks updates. Okay, so this is simonparks.org, and Parks is spelled P-A-R-K-E-S. China putting pressure on U.S. after interfering with 2020 election. North Korea said it would increase nuclear power. Issues between Israel and Iran. China sees Taiwan as part of China. U.S. released China. U.S. released Taiwan. Isn't that cool? That's just so exciting to me. And they were getting ready to, oh my gosh, what was getting ready to happen? Okay, Twitter is ousting people like crazy. Parler will be shut down in less than 8 hours. Gab has 10,000 people an hour and isn't functioning well due to traffic. Keep a watch on Secretary Pompeo's Twitter account. The closer together his posts are, the closer we are to go time. Currently, they are 30 minutes apart. Antifa is marching in the streets of New York City. An emergency alert was issued for Quebec province in Canada with curfews. There have been power outages in Rome, Berlin, and Pakistan, and Rome being the Vatican, and a subway fire shut down in Mexico. We're just waiting for the emergency broadcast alert. Please make sure you're stocked up on food, water, meds, fuel, candles, batteries, pet supplies, and cash. We expect periodic possible power outages, telephone or cell phone outages, or internet. Be prepared for anything. They're suggesting perhaps 10 days worth. If you're instructed to stay indoors, it's for your own safety. Do not engage the military. They are part of a global op to take down the dark cabal. Okay. Monkey Works shows tremendous air activity, especially around Washington, D.C. So there's a guy on YouTube called Monkey Works, and he's been showing us kind of where all the military planes are going and stuff. If you don't know how to, look on some of the sites and watch air traffic, the guy's name's Monkey Works. Check that out on YouTube. Okay, activation of plan put ahead 3 days due to intel on Pelosi's laptop. So yeah, so they jumped the gun on things last weekend, because when they went in as Antifa was in, there was some military mixed in with them, and they got Nancy's laptop, and they saw that China was getting ready to invade Taiwan and use the nuclear codes that she was trying to get by declaring Trump incompetent. And Trump, it sounds like he got 80% of the vote. So if they put it out like a quantum system, and we get to vote one for one, like each of our Social Security numbers or ID numbers, we vote, they would see it just massive for Trump. But it sounds like he won 80% of the vote, and so they're really trying to hide that. Okay, Apple, to do updates so you can't hear broadcast system. So in Apple, they're saying to turn off your Apple updates because Apple is blocking the updates, because Apple's part of the dark cabal. Okay, Pelosi's laptop showed her cooperation with Antifa assault on Capitol. She turned it around to Trump and was now calling for his impeachment, which is an act of treason. Okay, the outage over things growing. Fox, the Ingram angle, Tucker Carlson, they've still been pretty good intel. Sorry. Not intel, but, decent to watch. But, oh my gosh, the other networks, wow, right? It's pretty shocking if you didn't know what was happening and you're watching the other side just going, oh, it's good, and censoring's good, and he needs to shut down. He was inciting violence. And they're just saying that Trump was inciting violence just because the TV tells them. Because when you listen to the speech, he called for peace over and over and over. And then he again called for peace after. And Twitter removed his call for peace. So, okay. Let's see. Okay, so Sunday, January 17th. Yeah, a lot went on that day. I'm going to read that part. It's okay. The global currency reset and Nesara Gesara is all about, well, this angles the children. And so anyway, I think that the intel's done. So intelchronicles.blogspot.com, and you can read the daily intel. I'm not going to be posting it every day now because I can't. I'm censored every which way. All right, well, God bless you all.